Hey guys, welcome back to Adlib Talk, and this is my review for Cruella. Before we start with this review, as always, don't forget to leave a like on this video if you enjoy it, and please do consider subscribing, as those are the two main ways you can help support my channel right here at Adlib Talk. And now, without any further waiting, let's get right into that review. Emma Stone and Emma Thompson. That's all I have to say for this review. Basically, also add in a bit of stunning outfits, some great music. Yeah, that's Cruella. Okay, but I guess you're here for my more detailed review, I guess. So let's get into it. Based on both the 1956 novel as well as Walt Disney's 1961 animated film adaptation, Cruella is a crime film about the titular character herself, Cruella, directed by Craig Gillespie and written by Dana Fox and Tony McNamara. This is a prequel in which Emma Stone stars as Cruella, supported by some great performances by Emma Thompson, Joe Fry, Paul Walter Hauser, Emily Beechan, Kirby Howell-Baptiste, and Mark Strong. The movie set in the 1970s in London amidst the rise of the punk rock movement. We first meet our titular character as a young, talented genius girl who is extremely creative, yet shows signs of being quite cruel. Her mother withdraws him from school because of trouble, and on the way to London, they make a stop at a fashion party hosted by Baroness von Hellman. Her mother is killed by 3 ferocious Dalmatians who push her off the cliff, and Estella gets to see all this herself. She then ends up in London, befriends Jasper and Horace, blames herself for the death of her mother, but at the same time still wants revenge as to what happened there. These two urchins, Jasper and Horace, make a living stealing, and Estella sort of joins the group and helps them in this procedure as well. 10 years pass, and Estella is practicing her fashion designing skills by preparing disguises for their many escapades. Jasper manages to get Estella a job in the Liberty department store, and one thing leads to another. Stella ends up catching the attention of the Baroness herself, who eventually ends up hiring her. The Baroness soon recognizes Estella's talent. Things start to get complicated, very complicated, between the two. First of all, let's get this straight out. This did not have to be a Cruella de Vil origin story. I mean, at the end of the day, why the hell was this even turned into a Disney villain origin story? This was made such a great original movie, crime thriller, with 2 genius fashion designers, each with their own streak of craziness, vying for power in the fashion industry. That's a $500 million movie. Make it Hollywood. No. Instead, Disney obviously need to slap onto one of their many famous names onto the whole story. And thus, we get to see some pretty impressive Emma Stone performance and Emma Thompson performance, one as Stella and Cruella, the other as obviously the Baroness. Emma Stone herself is mesmerizing, and I wouldn't say she carries it because of just how good Emma Thompson is, but she does carry it at least on one shoulder by her exceptional performance. It's a nice combination that Emma Stone gives us of sometimes a quiet girl, sometimes a crazy girl. I just wish the writing for her character was done better. I feel that there's a big issue here where she just switches from one person to another at one point. It's like in a blink of an eye, and it does feel a little strange, to be honest with you. However, she goes from this like shy, quiet girl to a crazy and extremely confident fashionista ready to upstage the most famous fashion designer in London. However, I have to say that Emma Stone does display this all incredibly well, and her performance is exquisite. She sort of portrays emotions in extremely subtle ways, whilst also being very expressive when her role requires it. She also ensures that although it is quite an extravagant performance, she never overacts too much, if you know what I mean, and that is something that I really despise in these kinds of origin stories for these kind of crazy characters. The overacting sometimes gets a bit too much, and here it's the right amount of crazy. Emma Thompson, on the other hand, is the real villain of this movie. Seeing her battle it out with Stone is a great watch, and she truly embraces the evilness of the role and seems to really enjoy it, to be honest. There is still much to praise here, apart from the two mesmerizing performances. The costume design by two-time Oscar winner Jenny Bevan is simply astounding stuff, and I'm sure this will at least get another nomination to that regard. Add to that a simply astounding soundtrack taken care of by Nicholas Britell, who incorporates some beautiful orchestral music together with an incredible combination of British rock songs from this time period. It's extremely fun stuff and really helps push forward the story's narrative. Although some selections are obviously a little too obvious. I mean, you know what I'm talking about if you've watched the movie. The setting is also used pretty well. I think 1970s London is the perfect backdrop for the action going on the screen. However, at the same time, Cruella does suffer from the fact that Emma Stone never truly seems to be portraying the character we saw in the 1961 classic Disney movie. She is never truly cruel. I remember feeling a certain amount of fear when watching the 1961 101 Dalmatian movie and seeing Cruella's crazed looks. She was truly evil. She really wanted to kill those Dalmatians. Here, well, it's more of like a persona, like a projection, and I imagine we'll get a Cruella 2, which will delve more into these sort of questions, and we'll get to see how she turns even more crazy, although I'm curious if Disney will allow them to do so. The pacing of this movie is also another weak point. It's 2 hours 15 minutes, and that is just far too long for what's going on screen. It's fun stuff, yes, and I enjoyed it personally, but it could have been much shorter. The CGI, whilst minor in importance, is far too jarring for my liking. Couldn't they have gotten a better budget for that? I mean, it's Disney after all. Finally, whilst the writing is decent, I enjoyed seeing the Stella Cruella and the Baroness interactions. Those were pretty much the best moments of this movie. I also have to say that I enjoyed some of the twists and turns we got here, especially a particular twist we get sort of 2/3 into the movie. It should have been obvious. I personally did not see it coming. At the end of the day, Cruella is a fun movie experience, and I recommend it for families. It is not a movie made primarily for children. I guess it's a slightly dark take on the topic, but not as dark as I wish it could have gone. But it is, after all, a Disney movie. I wish it could have gone much darker. That would have been a delight. And it never really, as I mentioned before, had to be a Cruella de Vil movie in the first place. But for what it's worth, for what we have here, it's still quite enjoyable, especially due to the performances, the costumes, and the music. It does have its issues, however, with the pacing and the very weak CGI being the two major negatives of this movie. With all this in mind, I've been thinking a lot about this, about what rating I will give Cruella. I've been sort of switching between a 3.5 and a 4. But I'm going to be honest with you, by how much I actually enjoyed this movie, I will give it a 4 just because of the fun I had with this movie. I was engrossed throughout. And I haven't enjoyed a movie like this for quite a long time. So a 4 it is. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed that review. And if you did, like I said in the beginning, don't forget to leave a like on this video. And don't forget to subscribe to get more video game and movie reviews. Cheers, and I'll see you guys next time right here on Ad Lib Talk.